thank you for carving out a couple of minutes today for us to be able to walk through this program. The goal today is to give you a good sense of what you'll be able to do with the fitness edition of our program. My name's Ed Cleary. I've been with the company since its inception and work closely with professionals like yourself, leading edge scientists in the field, and just general users out throughout the fitness and nutrition space to try to come up with a solution that's going to make all of our lives a little easier. So let me start by giving you just a little background on where we came from. So our founder, Jeff Boyce, is a double master's in exercise physiology and sports nutrition, and like many of us during those days, he was working on doing some meal plannings for people that he was doing some training with, and bumped up against the age-old problem. How do I do this in the most efficient way where I'm not spending hours and hours on end creating something that's of no use and no value to my end client? So what you're going to see today in this product is the results of attacking that frustration with the help and support of all kinds of working professionals throughout a broad range of fields. Our goal, and you'll see it pasted throughout our site, is to make the nutrition management process better, faster, and easier. So what we're going to show you today is where we've come from Jeff's initial frustration to the product as it exists today. That being said, though, we're constantly improving this product with the input from working professionals in the field. So a little bit about the product before we jump in. This is a web-based product, and that means that anywhere you can get to the internet, you can get to your account. So there's some fantastic advantages to that. This isn't what we call a native client software. So you're not buying software, you're not loading it onto one computer in one location and having to run back to that computer every time you want to do work. Anywhere you can get to the internet, you can get to your subscription. The other great thing about that is you're not going to be buying upgrades or enhancements. As we improve this product, as soon as it's live for us, it's live for you. So once you have an open subscription, you get the full benefit of all improvements and enhancements that we make to this product at any time that it goes live. And the other great thing about this is it's a subscription model, so you're going to pay for this month to month. You're not buying one big lump sum of software and having to come back every year and pay for any changes that are made to that. You pay for what you need as you need it. At any time, there's no longer value in the system for you anymore. You go ahead and cancel your subscription. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to log into a demo account today. I'm going to take some time to go through some top level details, and towards the end I'll get through some of the more specifics. But the real hope is to give you a fantastic sense of what this product can do, and I hope in doing that you'll see where you might benefit from it. So let me start by just logging into my account. Once I log in, I'm taken to what we call the home page. So this is the interface that I would see as a professional. There is also an interface that the client will be able to see, and we'll talk about that a little bit as we get a little deeper into the program. But the primary function of this home page is for me to see the clients that I'm managing. Now I can have as many clients as I want in the system. If there's someone that I'm no longer going to work with, they've moved away, they're not at my gym, they no longer see value in what I'm doing, whatever it is, I can delete them out of the account at any time by just selecting this and knocking them out. Just know that once I do that, their data is gone. The other side of that is anytime that I have a new client, I can add them in. Once I have them in here, the value of keeping them in the system is that I have any of the data that I've used when working with them, and that's not only meal plans but active client management, which we'll talk about in a little bit, will stay in this system for as long as I keep them active. So let's talk about the two sides of this program a little bit. There is meal planning and nutrition management, and we'll be talking about that today. But there's also what we consider client management. So if I look at any of these people that I have in the system, let's just pick him, and I click on View Dashboard, I'm going to get into a client dashboard that gives me information outside of just the meal planning that I'm doing with this individual, so that I can really talk to them about what their goals are and really show them the kind of impacts that we're making working together. So if you see this, I have everything from just basic health and physical characteristics that I've logged into the system. If I'm tracking body comp measurements, Those are all going to go in here. Performance values, I may be tracking that. And then even blood panels. Now, granted, you may not be doing blood panels. Very few of you probably are going to be doing blood panels, but you're at many times going to be working with a client who is working with a physician, and they're going to say, listen, I just got my blood workup done. They really want me to pay attention to my cholesterol or some particular parameter. You can log that in here and show them the change that they're having over time. The next time they go get their blood work done, they bring it back, and you guys can start lining things up by saying, listen, here was our strategy at this point. Here was the impacts that it made. And here's a great example. If I go down to these informative graphs, any of the data that I have in the system is now here. Let's just pick weight, right? Here's the good one, right? So, hey, this is what you weighed when you started working with me. You told me that your goal was to gain lean muscle mass, and you now are at 195. And I can track additional, let's look at that body fat. I can pick a second factor and start tracking these together. So the reason I wanted to show you this is outside of just that meal planning, this is a great repository for all kinds of other information you may be having with this individual. And this is totally customizable. If I look at performance values, for instance, if I go track additional performance values, I can put in anything that I want here. I jump and I'm going to measure this in feet. And on this date, it was, he's quite a leaper. And I'm going to log that information. And now you'll see that I've got that information here. So you really can customize this in any way that you want for any type of information that you want to be tracking with this individual. Inside this dashboard, there's a number of tabs up here, and this is really where we can get a bit more granular. So basic client information, this is what I put in the first day I had this individual, but let's say I'm not going to add their address, or there's a specific sport I want to associate with them, and you'll see this general list. This is a way for me to segment my clients. So if I have a bunch of clients that are coming from a football team or someone who's interested in golf, as my client list grows, this becomes an opportunity for me to group them and segment them. The characteristics here, here's your basic body comp, right? If you're tracking this again, I can put any other information that I want here, track any other value that I want. And you'll see these fields up here. You may change weight. These are all date driven because we really want to know, okay, that's great data point, but when did it actually happen? So the first thing I'm always going to do is have to pick the date associated with when I'm putting that information in. I'm going to update any of this information, and then I'm going to save it. Performance values, it's going to show me the ones that I'm tracking. There may be a specific date that I'm going to do all of these data measurements on and put them in. There may be only one. I may add another value, whatever. This is really where I can get pretty granular about my performance values. Client images is an opportunity for you to track your basic front, rear, left, right profiles if you do that. And as you upload them into the system, you'll be able to compare them from one time frame to another time frame. And then this is a great feature, just client logs. As you know, you're going to be talking to this individual and you're going to say, hey, John seems to be eating less sugar and has a lot more energy, or he came to me and told me that he really wants to focus on reducing body fat, or he's entering a 5K or whatever. You don't want to have to remember any of those things. So you're just going to say, listen, he came here. And I'm going to add this to my log. So now I've got basic information, and you can see I even butchered it here. So if I want to go edit it, I can do that at any time. I can upload documents if I've got an intake survey form that I like, or they show me a race result, or anything that I have, I can attach that document here. And again, the great thing about that is anywhere that I go, I've got this information at my fingertips. Okay? So back to the dashboard itself. This is going to be the place that's going to aggregate all this different information for you. So outside of that meal planning, I've got all this information in one place, okay? So if I go back to my home page, let's start from scratch and let's just add a new client, okay? And I'm going to show you how that information comes across. So if I add a new client, and I'm going to say in this case it's Mike Smith, you can see there's very little information that's actually required. The reason we pick zip date, believe it or not, a zip code, believe it or not, is that's a really simple way to determine one user from another if they happen to have the same names. I'm going to put in their birth date because we are going to show you the information that's date driven. And I can even add a profile picture if I want to it. In this case, I've got a shot of Mike. I upload that image, and now I'm going to use the mouse, if you read these instructions, to capture the part of the image that I want. And over here you're going to see my preview, so I can drag it around to where I want it and save that thumbnail. Once I do and I save that, I'm going to be taken to the client dashboard, but you're going to see that none of these calculated fields exist because I haven't given baseline information. I'm going to say this is male. Mike's male. He's 6'0", and he's 185. Once I update that, you're going to see we're going to do some baseline calculations. So here's his height and weight, and now we calculated the resting metabolic rate. This is a very important number because the calculations for recommendations that we're going to give in this system, primarily caloric recommendations based on goal and activity level, use this baseline calculation. This is a scientific standard that exists in our system, and it's the gold standard. We're going to do that on an automated level for you, so we're not going to force you into a position to where you're going to have to calculate your own resting metabolic rate, okay? So now that I have Mike in the system, let's talk about the meal planning. There's two different places I can do this. I can create a new program from here, or again, when I first log in, I'm going to now see that I've got Mike in the system. I can view his dashboard, or I can create a new program. If you look at this, we're always going to show you the most recent plan that you're working on, and we're going to show you the progress. So if you look at Mike, we have no current plan, so none of this information exists for him. If you look at some of the other people that we've got in the system, Holly, for example, you can see by our progress bar up here, we have a plan in the system. Her latest plan shows that her activity logs, which we'll touch on, have been started but haven't been completed. We have finished the profile overview, and in this case we've already selected a meal plan, even though the activity log hasn't been completed, and we'll talk about that a little as we get into it. So let's go down to Mike. Let's actually create a new program from here, but we could get there from the dashboard as well. It's going to take us to the exact same screen. And it's going to take us to the place where we get to decide the program details of the plan that we're going to create for him. So I'm going to go through these one at a time and show you the differences on them, okay? So I'm going to give it a name, and I'm going to look at my program types. We're going to start at the automated level, individual plans. This is the default for the system, but I'm going to show you how each one of these can be changed and manipulated, okay? From an automated level, the one thing you'll see that's required is I have to give an average daily activity. That resting metabolic range that I talked to about earlier, that's someone who's at rest. That really means that someone laid on the couch the entire day. And I know that we've all had those Saturdays or Sundays, but that's unrealistic. Someone's going to have some activity throughout the day. Even if they're sitting at a desk the entire day, you're going to see that we're going to probably put them down here. Minimal or no exercise for the day. If you roll over these little question marks or tool tips, we're going to give you some guidance about what each one of these are, right? All the way up through high, heavy exercise for more than an hour twice during the day. So in this case, we're going to use medium low. And the goals, although it's optional, we're going to say Mike's interested in weight loss this time. Now this profile that I just create are going to drive all the recommended calculations. The system's going to do it for you at a highly automated level. So you'll see when I say save program, and remember we're doing individualized meal programs at this point, the system's going to say, okay, based on what you told us about this individual, what their goals are, the caloric recommendations are 1,832 with this carb, protein, and fat balance. In that range, we have 68 meal plans that exist in our system that fall within that recommended balance, okay? We have a database of over 500 7-day meal plans. So out of those 500, we found 68 that fall within a caloric range. And you're going to find them by these labels. So we've got 11 that are balanced, 8 that are carb focused, and so on. If I want to filter down further, I can. I can say I really want a protein focused plan. Once I do that, I'm going to filter down to 9 specific plans, and you're going to see that all of these vary some. They're going to fall within this caloric range. So that's 250 calories above or below the calculated recommendations. Those are well within acceptable ranges. So if I go down and say, okay, I'd like this one, I'm going to pick this one. You're going to see that I'm now done. I have a full 7-day plan picked directly out of our system. What that plan looks like, if I go to the profile overview, I can export this to a PDF. If I had an email here in this system with Mike, I could email it directly to him. What that plan looks like is this. Completed plan is going to show meals by time and day. If there's recipes in those meals, the recipes are going to be provided for them. If there was an exercise plan, and we'll talk about that shortly, it's going to include the exercise plan. It's automatically going to generate a shopping list. So, hey Mike, if you go get these things, you have everything you need for the plan I just gave you. And it's going to give them a portion guide. You know as well as anybody that few people have any idea what 4 ounces of chicken is. So we're going to give them this to help them do their portion control in their meal plans, okay? So that's our basic meal planning by specific items. Now I told you there's a lot of different options, so let's back into that, okay? If I click Edit Program, it's going to take me back to that original screen, and I can make some changes here. If I choose Exchange List, instead of giving a plan based on individual meals, we're actually going to give them a plan that shows them exchange lists, and I'll show you that in a second. But what it essentially is saying, we're going to not tell you what to eat, we're going to tell you how to eat, and then give you a whole bunch of options. So let's look at that. So now if I go into saving this program, you're going to see that the system took all those calculations and developed a carb, protein, and fat, including fluid, profile for each meal throughout the day. So it's going to say for breakfast, we're going to allow 366 calories. That's going to work out to 3 points of carbs, 3 points of proteins, and 2 points of fat. You don't have to worry about the calculations very much, but the points land up to be equivalent of specific grams of each one of these. So we really carve these down into units so that it's a very simple thing for them to plan around. Again, from the profile overview, I'm going to be able to email it or print it out. And now what it looks like is an exchange plan. So in this, again, you've got your cover page that you can add notes to. It's going to show them their profile. Hey, this is what I want you to do. Your points for proteins, carbs, and fats. And now here's your list. So in this case, and I won't burn through all of these, but for your carbohydrates, these are all 1 point values. So now they can go through and say, great, I'd love to have apple juice. 1 point is 4 ounces, so I could have 8 ounces, and that's going to take up 2 points of my carbs in the morning, right? You're going to see that they've got protein lists, fat lists, and the lists get very specific, and I can show you those as well. But now you're giving them a huge range of options to choose from. So instead of saying, here's tuna fish for lunch, and hearing back from them that they hate tuna fish, you're going to say, this is the macronutrient profile that I want you to shoot for. So many carbs, proteins, and fats. I'm going to let you pick from this huge list, so you can certainly find something that you like, okay? And in exchange planning, if you selected additional lists, you're going to see that there's these other options. There's gluten-free, vegan, vegetarian, and all of these are expanding at all times. We're on a development server today. In the live servers in your accounts, you'd see a huge range to pick from. You can just go over here and add any that you'd like to it. Okay, I want to give them a gluten-free exchange. And now when you save the program and output it, they're going to get that as well. All right. So now let's go back to the edit program and let's look at the other options that you have. We've talked about highly automated. If we look at exchange driven and meal driven, you're going to see that we have additional options. So if I pick exchange driven, I have different things that I can use to get much more specific about the type of plan that I'm going to give them. Start date, and you'll see that it's optional. I may use this if I want them to really focus from a specific time forward. The great examples we have are, someone's getting ready for a wedding and they want to be in the best shape possible when they're up in front of all their friends, or someone's got a 5K coming 5 Saturdays from now and you really want to get them going on a specific track to lead up to that. You can give this start date, any date that you want. All it really is on the plan that you give to them. That's going to be their driver. We're going to say, okay, Mike, I really want you to start on this Monday to get going. The other details that are fantastic are down here, the activity logs and food logs. And if I select these, this means that I'm going to get client input. And we're going to talk about the different ways that you can go through this. I'm going to say I want a 3-day recall for activities, and I'll talk about these warnings in a second, and a 3-day recall for food logs. Okay? In this case, I'm going to include an exercise program, and I'm going to leave the goals the same. Now when I go into my program, you're going to see I've got a lot more tabs throughout here. Okay? The reason I can't get to any of these other sections right now is, remember that I have to have activity data so that I can have accurate recommendations calculated. So in this case, I've yet to provide any activity data. I'm going to go ahead and do this as an example. I have two different options here. Again, I can do that kind of low, medium, high, and high that we looked at in the first automated plans. I can also go over here, and here's my second option, and start putting in specific events. And if I put in running, you're going to see that I've got really specific values that I can pick from. I'm going to pick this one, and I'm going to say they went from 6 to 7 in the morning, and I'm going to add that exercise. When I add that exercise, you'll see down here there's very specific calculations that occurred. This up here comes from a database of widely accepted activities that have specific METs associated with them. A MET is a metabolic equivalent of task. All that means is that that task has a specific value associated with it, where based on the information that we put in for Mike, we're going to be able to calculate what he most likely burnt for that activity. Now, a 180-pound, 6'1" male is going to burn very differently than a 5'2", 106-pound female. That's all built into these calculations. But now I'm starting to get really specific information about what Mike is actually doing on a daily level. So I'm going to be able to have these activity logs and food logs. Instead of populating all of these, let me jump to food logs and show you a little bit of how this works. Now, there is an opportunity for the client to provide this information for you, and I'm going to show you that in a little bit. But if we talk about a traditional sense, they come in with a 3-day food recall for you. Let's show you just for a couple seconds how you do that. So you're going to say, they said on April 2nd at 6:45 for breakfast, and you're going to see these field sets are walking us through it step by step. They're going to tell us what they had. Now let me show you a little bit how our food lookup works. If I put in oatmeal and just hit search, it's going to go through our entire database of foods. We have close to 60,000 items in there. That's going to say, here's what we found with oatmeal in it. If I don't select a category in that original search screen, it's going to show me every possible result for oatmeal. You can see in here I've got 204. I'm going to filter down to cereals ready to eat by subcategory down to 13. It was General Mills, and in this case this is the one that I wanted. That is their commercial serving size. I'm going to add it, and instead of going item by item by item, I'm just going to add this so that you can see how this works. I would add this meal. But if I'm going to be detailed, I'm going to put everything they had. I'm going to put oatmeal and milk and peanut butter and a half an apple and whatever else they did in that system, and that's what I'm going to put in for breakfast, okay? And then what I'd do is I'd say, okay, they had a snack at 9 o'clock. What I wanted to show you is now if I put oatmeal, the system remembers what I searched for last time, and they're going to say, this is your past selection. Is that what you want? This is super helpful because many people eat the same thing over and over and over again, and you're not going to want to have to do that search every single time you come back into the system. So over time, you're going to build up a history for this individual. You're going to be able to log very, very quickly to create information, okay? So again, I'm going to add this meal. Now, granted, there's some dummy data in here. I just wanted to show you the search parameters. You're going to see that I'm now starting to open up the other parts of the system. From the profile overview, we're now creating this great graph This is energy intake for this one day. Here's food intake for this one day. Granted, none of this is all that relevant yet because we didn't do the entire log. But now we're starting to do these recommendations based on more specific data about this individual, what they're actually eating, what they're actually doing, and it's going to impact these recommendations. This is a great thing to share with your clients. Over time, you're going to show, hey, here's your food intake against what would be this line of your resting metabolic rate, and here's your energy expenditure. So you really get this energy balance graph, and I'll show you some details of that later, that you can share with them to show them what they're doing. And if I click this PDF output, it's a nice clean report that I can put in their hands. Okay. Now when I go to continue on, this warning is saying I have not yet completed my logs, and by moving forward from profile overview, I'm going to get recommendations and haven't been fully populated with all their information. So in this case, just for demonstration's sake, I'm going to move forward. Excuse me. Remember we talked about an exercise plan. If I go in here now, I can start creating, and this is where you're going to be able to do your exercise programming for this individual. I'm going to pick running again. And I'm going to find the one that best represents what I want them to shoot for. I'm going to have them run for an hour and 15 minutes. I'm going to give them I can put in any notes that I want. Realize that these exercises are very macro. They have specific that metabolic equivalent of task associated with it. It's not going to be chest flies 45 pounds, 18 reps. It's not that granular. You're going to put weightlifting, and then you're going to put your details over here. The reason is all we're concerned about from a nutrition programming standpoint is that caloric burn. You can get as detailed as you want about what you want them to do, and that's where you would add this here. Now when I get to meal planning, I can if I'm doing the exchange plan, I can select additional exchange list, go to the program overview, and send it out to the client again. Okay. If I go back here, I have the exact same option for meal planning. Realize everything we just did was for exchange lists. Okay. If I go back to meal plan driven, I have all this same information, but now when I'm in meal planning, I'm going to be selecting these 7-day plans once again. So in this case, I've got new calculations, protein focused, and I'm going to select this. At any time, if you want to see specific details, you just select this preview button, and the system will show you the entire plan. So you can review this and say, yeah, this is in line with what I want, or no, let me take a look at another one. Select it, and you're ready to go. So let's talk about the activity logs and food logs just for a minute. I'm going to back up to my home page, and I'm going to go to a different client that actually has an email associated with them. In this case, I'm going to jump right into this specific plan, so I'm going to click on this. These are all active links. I did a very automated plan for this individual, and I have what I want. Now, if in an existing plan, I said, you know what, I really want to back into this and I want them to provide me some logs, all I would do is edit this. And in this case, since I'm doing individual meals, I'm going to go to meal plan driven. And I'm going to ask them to provide logs for me. Of course, I could create a brand new program and just jump to this. But I'm going to open up a program that we already have. And now I'm going to say I want to send this to the client for remote completion. What that means is that the system's going to generate an email out to this individual and tell them that I'm doing a plan for them and I would like them to log for me. Now before I jump forward, there's a big if I'm going to talk about here. This is a great feature to provide for a client that's highly engaged. As all of you know, people for the most part really don't like to log, and the ones that are going to log for you, they're going to be incomplete, not going to be honest, you're not going to have data that's all that relevant. So we really strongly discourage around opening this up until you have a client that's very engaged and you know is going to take the time to provide accurate information for you. So if I have that client and I've decided to do this and I want them to log for me, I'm going to make those suggestions here. And now I'm going to save and continue into the program. Now I've got activity logs and food logs, but I'm going to wait for them to populate it. So if I go and I'm going to pretend I'm this individual, I can see that I got an email. I'm just going to say, hey Johnny, I'm doing a new nutrition program for you. Will you go in and give me your activity logs and food logs? Okay, and you can see here's my note, please log each day. When they follow this link, they're going to be taken directly into the system. This is the first time they have to come in, so they're going to accept their terms of use. They're going to be taken into the system. You can see that they can opt out watching this video, but the first time in, we basically forced them to watch it. This is a tutorial of exactly how to use this page. It's a little over 2 minutes long. It's very helpful. It's a great thing for them. I'm going to close it in this instance. Now you can see they're taken into the system where they can provide a log for you. Activity and food logs are going to look the same, but if you notice there's no tabs up here. They can't get to their own information. They can't go look at their dashboard. They can't pick their own plan. Nothing. They're really siloed into this one location to be able to give you their logs. This is the client interface. From the professional interface, you would see all this other information, right? So they're really given access to just this one location. They would provide activity logs and food logs for you. When they get to day 3, there would be a submit button down here. That sends you an email, and it's going to tell you, hey, Johnny just finished his logs. Go in and take a look at it. There's an active link that'll take you directly in here so you can start reviewing their data. This is a great feature when you have a lot of different clients working in the system at the same time. You don't want to have to manage each and every one of them. You're not going to want to have to constantly go back and see whether or not they finished their logs. You're just going to get a notification from the system when they're complete. There's one other aspect of this that's fantastic. Remember, they don't need a password, a log, or a user ID or anything. All they're going to get is this email and this very unique link that takes them to exactly where you want them to go. If they access this email through a smartphone, they're going to get a mobile browser version of the very same thing. Okay, again, it's step 1, step 2, step 3. It's very easy for them, especially from a food log standpoint, so that they have this with them while they're eating their meal. They can log it for you. They don't have to scratch it down and go home and do it in front of a computer. This is an either or, and it's great to give them those benefits, but I'll constantly say that from a logging standpoint, this is something that people are fairly resistant to. So it's a great feature for those people who are really going to get in and contribute with you. Okay? So now I'm going to move back to my home page. That's really the different types of programming that you can create, the different types of information that you can put into the dashboard, and how you track it. I want to show you a little bit about your own profile and how you can use this as a fantastic marketing tool. So if you're back on your home page, you're going to see my profile. This one happens to be populated with a lot of information. What is Evolution Nutrition? This is a great client-facing video, and I'm going to show you how to share this with them. This is a 2-minute video about why in the world they would actually want to do client management with you, why they would want to do nutrition planning. It talks about how you can create goals that are very specific to them to create specific impacts for them, the unique individual, and not this kind of catch-all that anybody should be doing. You're really going to be able to customize for exactly what they want to do. You can post videos, you can expose this to your Facebook page so that people can comment, and you can really create this as an interactive page. If you go to edit profile, this is where you would add all that information. Okay, so you're going to be able to put in any and everything. You can upload videos, you can add links, you can add your social media links so that people can find you in any other space that you're at. Here's where I'm putting up my photos. Here's where I'm putting up my videos. Now you notice that video that we have on there, that's client facing. That's the default. You could add any other video that you want, and if I choose to use this one as my profile video, that would replace. So if you've got a video that you like to use to market yourself, you would upload it and just select it to be used as the profile instead of the default video. And if you go up here, you're going to see custom URL. In this case, I called it Butler Fit. This is John Butler, the professional. If I click on share this public, it's going to give me a URL. You copy and paste that and email it out to everybody that you want. It's going to take them directly to your profile page. So they're not inside your account, but they get to see any information that you want to post about yourself. And this link right here, Get Professional Meal Planning, hopefully they're engaged and interested in what you're doing. They click on that button, you're going to get an email directly from that individual telling you that they're interested in your meal planning services. The other thing that I want to show you is we know that you want to promote yourself. You don't necessarily want to be promoting Evolution Nutrition. If you go into your account settings, you're going to see this design tab. This is a place for you to change this however you want. You can upload your logo and it'll override that. You can change your tagline here, and you'll see that it's updating right here. You can change any colors that you want. If you happen to know very specific colors, you can do that. You can select from our color palette, and you'll see as you're making those changes, you're going to get this preview. You're going to change the logo, you're going to change the colors. You can really brand it entirely as the way you want it. This is great for a couple of different reasons. The client portal, when they access your emails here, your logo is going to show up instead of our logo. On these outputs here, your logo, your colorways, these plans are going to be branded as you. So this is a fantastic tool for you to not only provide very professional nutrition services, but to really brand it as your own service. Some other things I'll touch on quickly, support in particular. This is something that's always getting updated. It's a great place for you to circle back. We've got pre-taped webinars. We have how-to videos. We've got a very robust FAQ section so that at any time if you're looking for information about how and what we're doing, click in here. And once you're logged in, you'll see that this flyout tab exists throughout the entire site. At any time, fill this information out, select the request type, hit submit. We're going to know where you were at on the site. It'll be routed to the right department. You'll have a response from us within 24 business hours. That's the general overview of the product. I hope it was informative today. Thanks so much for carving out some time. We look forward to hearing from you, and hope that we're able to partner with you to be able to provide some real value from a very professional nutrition management standpoint for you and your clients. Thanks so much and have a great day.